Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Of course, it's him. Ridiculous red suit, slicked back hair, and a flower in the lapel, Violet muttered to herself, hiding behind the window of the fancy cafe on Park Avenue. On the other side of the glass, seated elegantly at the window table, was a man in a bright red suit and a blonde woman who was laughing far too loudly. Violet didn't need more proof. This was Ethan, her best friend Emma's fiancé. And just as she suspected, he was cheating in broad daylight, no less, in the same cafe where he was supposed to have brunch with Emma just a week earlier. Jerk! Low-life coward, she whispered, marching toward the entrance of the restaurant. Violet wasn't one to watch injustice in silence. If Emma didn't have the courage to confront the cheater, Violet had 3 times that. And today was about justice, or at the very least, one serious scene. She walked in with purpose, her heels echoing on the marble floor. A waiter tried to stop her, but she dodged him like a heat-seeking missile. There he was, red suit, slick hair, sitting at the table with an elegant gray-haired woman who carried herself like royalty. Violet stopped right in front of the table, took a deep breath, and shouted, "Ethan, you rotten, shameless cucumber! You cheap traitor!" Heads turned. The waiter froze. Somewhere in the back, a fork hit the floor. As if cheating on Emma wasn't enough. Now you dress like this, a red suit. Who do you think you are? The Santa Claus of betrayal? And you, ma'am, no offense, all right, but with all due respect, you're elegant, refined. Your hair shines like something out of a shampoo commercial. But don't you think you're a little too old for him? I mean, quite a bit. Because my friend is young. Truly young. No Botox. And she doesn't look like a retired Chanel executive. The man blinked, confused. The woman choked on her tea. "Excuse me, who are you?" the man asked, clearly surprised. Violet didn't flinch. "Don't pretend you don't know me, Ethan. I'm Violet, Emma's friend. The one you swore to love, respect, and take to Paris. But you never did." The woman chuckled. "Violet, is it?" she said with a refined accent and an amused expression. "My dear, you just yelled at the wrong man. And what a delightful mix-up. You've just gone up in my estimation." Violet blinked. "What? This is my son, Liam Parker, and we don't know any Emma. In fact, he's not engaged to anyone. He's single. Very much single, if I may say so." Violet's eyes widened. The color drained from her face. She looked again. The man in the red suit had green eyes, definitely not Ethan's, and the nose narrower, the hair darker. "Oh no." She slowly turned her head to another table, 2 rows back where the real Ethan, also in a red suit, was laughing with a blonde woman. And when he saw her, he slipped away quietly. She had made a scene at the wrong table. "Oh," she said, her voice now barely a whisper. "Well, that's kind of embarrassing." "Kind of?" Liam muttered, trying to hide a smile. But before Violet could run out the door or disappear into the floor, the older woman stood up with a gleam in her eyes. "What's your full name, dear?" "Violet Harper." She took Violet's hand firmly and announced loud enough for everyone to hear, "Violet Harper, a star's name, a storm of a personality. You're perfect." "Perfect for what?" Violet asked, still in full panic mode. "To set my son straight." "What?" "That's right. I'm Sophia Parker, mother of the rotten cucumber. I mean, Liam. And my dear, if anyone on this earth can straighten this boy out, it's you." Liam coughed. "Mom, please." "No, Liam, I mean it. You surround yourself with fake socialites and yes-men in suits. And today, for the first time in years, someone told you the plain truth. I loved it." Violet blinked 3 times. "Is this really happening?" "Yes. And tell me, are you single?" "Yes, but what?" "Perfect," Sophia said, clapping her hands. "Violet Harper, you're going to marry my son." The entire cafe choked. Liam choked. Violet choked so hard she coughed. "Is this some kind of prank?" she asked, looking around, expecting to see a hidden camera crew. "Not at all. I'm completely serious. You are exactly the kind of woman my son needs. Spontaneous, honest, hilarious, and bold enough to yell in a crowded cafe. You're practically a modern miracle." Liam, now as red as his suit, tried to protest. "Mom, this is insane. You don't even know her." "We know enough. Liam, if you don't marry her, I'll disown you. And Violet, if you don't accept, I'll sue you for defamation and perjury for calling my son a rotten cucumber in front of 36 witnesses." "What? That's insane." "Maybe. But this is my family. Welcome, dear. Fine, I accept, Violet said, resigned. Still not quite believing what was happening. Sophia Parker clapped her hands enthusiastically while Liam rubbed his face, clearly questioning his life choices. The cafe was still completely silent, with every customer watching the scene as if it were a live soap opera episode. Excellent, Sophia exclaimed. Tomorrow at 2. 0 inches the afternoon at the Madison Avenue Registry Office. Nothing fancy, just the necessary paperwork. Liam, you bring the witnesses. Mom, this is crazy, Liam muttered. Crazy as you being 32 and not having one decent girlfriend. Violet's going to be the best thing that's ever happened to you. You'll see. Violet left the cafe in shock, walking through the streets of Manhattan as if she were in a strange dream or a nightmare. She still wasn't sure. The cold wind hit her face, bringing her back to reality. She had just agreed to marry a complete stranger. 20 minutes later, she was at the door of the apartment she shared with Emma. Her friend was on the couch watching Netflix and eating popcorn. Emma, you won't believe what happened, Violet said, tossing her purse on the floor. Let me guess, you got yourself into some kind of trouble. Emma paused the show, turning to her with interest. Worse, much worse. I made a scene, but with the wrong man. What do you mean? Violet flopped onto the couch next to her friend and told the whole story from when she saw Ethan with another woman to the cafe incident, and finally Sophia Parker's crazy proposal. With every detail, Emma's eyes grew wider. Wait. Emma grabbed her friend's hand. You're telling me that Ethan, that shameless guy, was cheating on me, and some rich lady decided you were perfect for her son just because you yelled at him in public? Basically, yes. And I agreed to marry him. She threatened to sue me, and he was going to lose his job. What was I supposed to do? Emma stayed silent for a few seconds, processing it all. Then she started laughing, first quietly, then louder and louder until she was laughing uncontrollably. Emma, this isn't funny. No, sorry, she said, wiping tears from her eyes. It's just, only you, Violet. Only you could turn revenge on a cheater into an arranged marriage. Thanks for the moral support, Violet muttered. But look at the bright side. At least you won't have to share an apartment with me anymore. And from what you said, he's good-looking, right? Emma. Relax. I'm kidding, but seriously. You said it's temporary. So don't stress. Sign the papers, live together for a while, and then you two get divorced. Simple. Emma grabbed her phone and dialed a number. What are you doing, calling that jerk Ethan? If I'm going to be maid of honor at a whirlwind wedding, I might as well get rid of my own problem first. The call connected, and Emma put it on speaker. Hi, honey. Ethan's voice came from the other end. Ethan, we need to talk, Emma said firmly. What's up? I'm breaking up with you. What? You heard me. I'm ending our relationship right now over the phone. Emma, you're crazy. We were doing fine, were we? Because you were at the Park Avenue Cafe with some blonde. Care to explain? How did you find out? Does it matter how? What matters is you're a cheater. Goodbye, Ethan. Emma hung up and turned to Violet with a satisfied smile. There. Now I can fully focus on your marriage drama. The next day, Violet stood in front of the Madison Avenue Registry Office, wearing the only decent dress she owned, a simple navy blue one she used for job interviews. Emma stood beside her, serving as witness and moral support. I still can't believe you're really doing this, Emma murmured. Neither can I, Violet replied, nervously adjusting her hair. Liam arrived right at 2, accompanied by a middle-aged man who introduced himself as Oliver, his personal lawyer. He wore a perfect gray suit and had an expression somewhere between resignation and disbelief. Well, let's get this over with, he said, shaking Violet's hand formally. Where's the romance? Emma muttered, earning a sharp glare from Violet. The ceremony lasted exactly 15 minutes. They signed papers, exchanged a few required words with the officer, and that was it. They were officially married. They didn't even exchange rings. Congratulations, Oliver said as he put the papers away. You're now legally husband and wife. How exciting, Liam said sarcastically. 2 hours later, Violet was standing at the door of an apartment in Carnegie Hill, holding her 2 suitcases and questioning every decision that had brought her there. Welcome to your new temporary home, Liam said, opening the door. The apartment was stunning. High ceilings, huge windows with a view of Central Park, modern and expensive decor. It was 3 times the size of the place she shared with Emma. Wow, she murmured as she slowly stepped inside. "The guest room is down the hall to the right. It has its own bathroom. Feel free to decorate it however you like." "Guest room? You didn't think we'd be sharing a bedroom, did you? This is a marriage of convenience, not a honeymoon, right?" Of course. In the following days, an odd routine began between them. Liam left early for work, came home late, and they barely saw each other. But when they did, it was always a comedy of small misunderstandings. On the first morning, Violet woke up early and decided to make breakfast. She found the most high-tech kitchen she had ever seen, with appliances that looked like they belonged in a spaceship. She tried to make pancakes and almost set the apartment on fire when she couldn't figure out how to turn off the fancy stove. Liam came running down in his pajamas, thinking it was a real fire. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "Trying to make breakfast." "How was I supposed to know this stove has more buttons than an airplane?" "That's a $15,000 professional stove. $15,000 for a stove. You could have bought a car. I have 3 cars. Of course you do." On the second day, Violet decided to rearrange the living room because, according to her, it had no life. Liam came home from work and found all the furniture in different spots. "You moved everything around," he said, standing at the door. "I made it better. Now there's more energy, more movement. Before, it looked like a home decor magazine. No soul. I liked it the way it was." "Liam, you had the books organized by color." "By color? Who does that?" "Organized people. People with no imagination. Look, now they're sorted by topic. Much more useful." Liam looked at the messy shelves inside. "You're going to drive me crazy." "Probably," she said, smiling, "but at least you won't die of boredom." On the third day, Liam tried to get back at her by messing with her closet. Violet found all her clothes rearranged by type and color. "Seriously?" she yelled from the bedroom. "You organized my clothes." "Thought you'd like it," he replied from the living room, trying not to laugh. "Liam, I had a system. Work clothes were separate from weekend clothes, which were separate from gym clothes. Now they're organized logically." Logically for who? A robot. But every time Liam tried to get under her skin, Violet responded with good humor and creativity. When he hid the TV remote, she figured out she could control everything from her phone. When he swapped the sugar with salt, she made salty lemonade and said it was a new Southern recipe. Meanwhile, Sophia Parker was busy with her own plans. In her elegant Manhattan office, she was signing important documents. "Are you sure about this, Mrs. Parker?" her lawyer Daniel asked. "Absolutely. I want 20% of Parker Tech shares transferred to Violet Harper Parker today. She doesn't even know your son is the president of the company, does she? She'll find out at the right time, and when she does, I want her to have real power to support him or to keep him in check if needed." "You're playing a dangerous game." Sophia smiled mysteriously. "Dear Daniel, I don't play games. I orchestrate destinies." The papers were signed, stamped, and filed. Violet Harper Parker now owned a sizable share of one of New York's biggest tech companies without having any idea her life was about to change completely. Back at the apartment, Violet and Liam were in the kitchen trying to decide what to order for dinner. "Pizza," Violet said. "Sushi," Liam said at the same time. They looked at each other, and for the first time since the wedding, they laughed together. "Pizza with sushi for dessert," she suggested. "You're insane," he said, but he was smiling. "And you're starting to like it," she replied. And Liam didn't know what to say because maybe, just maybe, she was right. The following Monday, Violet returned to work at the Meridian Hotel with a strange sense of normalcy. Even though she had gotten married just a week earlier, her professional routine hadn't changed, arriving at 8 p.m., organizing corporate events, and making sure everything ran smoothly in the hospitality department. What she didn't expect was to find a familiar figure standing at the main reception desk, wearing a flawless black suit and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Clara Thornton," Violet murmured, stopping abruptly in the hallway. Clara Thornton, her college classmate, a declared rival since day one, and now apparently her new boss, the woman who had always competed with her over everything. Grades, internships, boyfriends, even lipstick color. "Violet Harper," Clara exclaimed, walking toward her with careful steps. "What a wonderful surprise to find you here. Still working as an event coordinator, I assume?" "Hello, Clara," Violet replied, keeping her tone neutral. "I didn't know you were in New York." "Oh dear, a lot has changed since college. I was promoted to general manager of this hotel 2 weeks ago. Which means, she paused dramatically, I'm now your boss. Clara's smile was full of satisfaction. Violet felt a knot in her stomach, but didn't show it. Congratulations on the promotion, she said politely. Thank you. And speaking of changes, I've heard some interesting rumors about you. Word is you got married recently. What was his name again? Liam something? Violet frowned. How did Clara know about her marriage? Liam Parker. She answered cautiously. Oh, right, Parker. Interesting name. And what does he do? He works in tech. How vague. Well, regardless, I hope your personal life won't interfere with your professional performance. We have very high standards here. Before Violet could answer, a familiar male voice spoke behind her. Clara, I don't believe it. Violet turned around and saw Ethan, Emma's ex-boyfriend, walking over with a broad smile. He was wearing a navy blue suit and carrying a leather briefcase. Ethan. Clara opened her arms dramatically. What a wonderful coincidence. What are you doing here? He asked, hugging her. I'm the new general manager. And you? I was just hired as the hotel's financial consultant. I'll be handling all the audits and cost-benefit analyses. Violet watched the exchange and felt something was off. The coincidence was just too big. Violet? Ethan said, finally noticing her. What a surprise to see you working here. Ethan, she replied coolly. Oh, you two know each other? Clara asked with fake innocence. Ethan was dating my best friend until last week, Violet explained. Oh, Clara feigned surprise. How delicate. Well, I hope this doesn't make the workplace uncomfortable. Over the following weeks, it became clear that Clara and Ethan had teamed up with one goal: to make Violet's life miserable at the hotel. It started with small things. Clara would change Violet's shifts at the last minute, assign her to events that were impossible to organize alone, and constantly question her decisions in front of other employees. Violet, about Thursday's event, Clara said during the morning meeting, "Why did you choose red roses for the decor? Don't you think that's a bit ordinary?" The red roses were a specific request from the client, Violet replied calmly. And you didn't try to suggest something more refined, more elegant? That's what we expect from our coordinators. Creativity. Not just following instructions. Ethan, present at the meeting as a consultant, added, "Speaking of costs, Violet, the Friday event's budget went 12% over. How do you explain that? The client requested last-minute changes to the menu. Everything was documented and approved by the previous management." Previous management? Clara repeated. Well, now we have new standards. Let's not let this happen again. The sabotage campaign escalated. Clara began giving Violet incorrect information about event times and specifications. Ethan would discover financial issues in projects Violet was managing, always in front of others. During a major corporate event, they pulled off the most humiliating stunt yet. Clara told Violet that the event would start at 7 p.m., when, in fact, it was scheduled for 6. When Violet arrived an hour late, she found angry clients and chaos everywhere. "Violet?" Clara shouted theatrically in front of everyone. "Where were you? The event started an hour ago." "You told me it was at 7, Violet said, confused. "Sace, dear, it's always been 6. It's been on the schedule since the beginning." Ethan appeared, holding a tablet. "I can confirm that. Here's the original schedule. It's always been 6. Violet looked at the document and saw that it did, in fact, say 6. She was sure Clara had said 7, but she had no way to prove it. "This is unacceptable," Clara went on, raising her voice so everyone could hear. "Our clients can't be affected by professional negligence." "I wasn't negligent," Violet protested. "There was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Ethan shook his head. "Violet, this is irresponsibility. How can you coordinate events if you can't even show up on time?" The clients whispered among themselves, clearly unhappy. Violet felt her face burn with humiliation and anger. She knew it had been a setup, but she couldn't prove it. "We'll settle this later," she said, trying to keep her dignity. "Right now, I need to make sure the event runs perfectly." And it did. Even arriving late, Violet managed to organize everything down to the smallest detail. The event was a complete success, but the damage to her reputation was already done. The next day, Clara called her into her office. "Violet, we need to talk about your performance. My performance has been excellent, given the circumstances." "Circumstances?" Clara pretended not to understand. "Dear, you showed up an hour late to an important corporate event. That's unforgivable. You told me it was at 7. Are you suggesting I lied?" Clara stood up, outraged. That's a very serious accusation. Ethan walked into the office at that moment, as if the timing had been rehearsed. Sorry to interrupt, but I just got a formal complaint from yesterday's clients. They're considering canceling future events at the hotel. See, Clara said, your actions have consequences. Violet, I'm considering firing you. You can't fire me over a misunderstanding. We can, and we will, Ethan replied, unless you have some influence we don't know about. At that exact moment, the office door opened, and Sophia Parker walked in like an elegant hurricane, wearing a pink Chanel suit and carrying a purse that probably cost more than Violet's yearly salary. Excuse me, she said with that refined accent Violet knew so well. I'm looking for my daughter-in-law, Violet Parker. The office fell completely silent. Clara and Ethan froze. Mrs. Parker, Violet said, surprised. What are you doing here? I came to see how you're adjusting to work, dear, and from what I heard in the hallway, not very well. Sophia turned to Clara with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You must be the manager. I'm Sophia Parker, chairwoman of the Parker Group, owner of this hotel. Clara turned pale. Mrs. Parker, it's an honor, is it? Because from what I just heard, you're threatening to fire my daughter-in-law over a misunderstanding about the schedule. No, ma'am. It's just that Ethan, isn't it? Sophia turned to him. Violet's best friend's ex-boyfriend. What an interesting coincidence that you work here now. Ethan swallowed hard. Ma'am, I quiet. Sophia raised her hand. Violet, dear, do you like working here? I do, Mrs. Parker, but it's been challenging. I can imagine. Well, I have a solution. Sophia pulled a folder from her purse. I just signed your promotion to Vice President of Hotel Operations, effective immediately. What? Clara and Ethan exclaimed together. Vice President, Sophia repeated calmly. That means Violet is now your superior, Clara, and Ethan, your services as a consultant are no longer needed. You're fired. That's impossible, Clara protested. She doesn't have the qualifications to be vice president. She does now, Sophia smiled. And if you have a problem with that, you can hand in your resignation letter as well. Ethan made one last attempt. Ma'am, with all due respect, but this looks like nepotism. Sophia stared at him with icy calm. Young man, my family built this empire when you were still in diapers. Don't tell me how to run my business. She turned to Violet. Dear, your new office is on the 12th floor. I think you'll have a lot of work reorganizing things around here. Clara was white as a sheet. Mrs. Parker, I apologize if there was any misunderstanding. There was no misunderstanding, Sophia said. There was an attempt to sabotage my daughter-in-law. You have 1 week to prove you deserve to keep working under Violet's supervision. Sophia kissed Violet on the cheek and whispered, Welcome to leadership, dear. Use it wisely. After Sophia left, Violet looked at Clara and Ethan, who were still in shock. Well, she said calmly, I think we have a lot of work ahead of us. Clara, I need a full report on all hotel operations on my desk by 9 a.m. tomorrow. And Ethan, you can start packing your things. Ethan left the office in silence, defeated. Clara stood there, still trying to process what had just happened. How? She murmured. How did you, Clara? Violet said, sitting in the chair that just minutes ago belonged to her rival. You've always underestimated people. That's always been your weakness. As Clara walked out of the office, humiliated, Violet looked out the window and smiled. She still didn't fully understand everything that was happening in her life. But one thing was certain. Sophia Parker was a mother-in-law who knew how to take care of her family, and it looked like Violet was starting to realize she had more influence than she ever imagined. 3 weeks after her sudden promotion to vice president, Violet was starting to adjust to her new reality. Her office on the 12th floor had a view of Central Park, a mahogany desk that cost more than a car, and a highly efficient assistant named Beatrice, who managed her schedule with military precision. Clara, now working under her, had become the picture of forced professionalism. She arrived early, stayed late, and treated Violet with a cold politeness that bordered on comical. According to rumors, Ethan had disappeared from New York entirely, supposedly taking a job in Chicago. That Thursday, the Meridian Hotel was hosting the most important event of the quarter, the Hamilton Foundation Charity Gala, which would bring together Manhattan's elite to raise funds for children's hospitals. Violet was personally overseeing every detail, from the white orchid arrangements to the 5-course menu created by the most sought-after French chef in town. Around 3:00 the afternoon, while supervising the setup in the main ballroom, Violet heard raised voices coming from the service hallway. She immediately recognized one of them. Maria Gonzalez, one of the hotel's most dedicated waitresses, always working with a genuine smile and a sharp eye for detail. "That's not true," Maria said, her voice shaking. "I would never do something like that. The evidence is clear," replied a harsh male voice that Violet recognized as Michael Lee, the food and beverage supervisor. "2 bottles of Dom Perignon champagne are missing from the stockroom, and you were the last one to access it last night." Violet walked closer quietly and saw Maria with red eyes, holding a tissue in her trembling hands. Michael stood with his arms crossed, looking stern, while Clara watched with barely hidden interest. "Mr. Lee," Maria said in a broken voice, "I swear on my children's lives I didn't take anything. You've known me for 3 years. I would never steal from this hotel." "Feelings don't change fact," Michael said coldly. "The inventory was complete when you left. And this morning we discovered the bottles were gone. You're the only logical explanation." "But that makes no sense," Maria protested. "Why would I steal expensive champagne? I don't even drink." Clara stepped in with a fake concerned smile. "Maria, dear, I know your financial situation has been tough. 2 small kids, late rent. Maybe you thought selling the bottles could help fix a few problems." "How do you know about my financial situation?" Maria asked, surprised. "I'm the manager, Maria. It's my job to know my staff." Violet felt her blood boil. She had known Maria for 2 years and knew she was as honest as they came. She worked 2 jobs to raise her kids on her own after her husband left, and she had never missed a shift or arrived late. "Excuse me," Violet said, stepping in. "What's going on here?" "Vice President Parker," Michael said, quickly changing his tone to one of respect. "We're dealing with a theft. Maria Gonzalez stole 2 bottles of Dom Perignon from our stock." "That's a very serious accusation," Violet said calmly. "Do you have solid proof?" Clara stepped forward. "The circumstantial evidence is clear. Maria was the last one in the stockroom, and the bottles disappeared during the night." "Circumstantial evidence?" Violet repeated. "Michael, show me exactly where these bottles were stored." They walked to the climate-controlled stockroom in the basement. Michael pointed to a shelf in the special wine section. "Right there. 3rd shelf. We had 12 bottles for tonight's event. Now we have 10. Violet examined the area carefully. "Maria, tell me exactly what you did here last night." "I came to get the crystal glasses for today's event," said Maria, still trembling. "They're kept in that cabinet over there. I took 6 boxes, checked to make sure everything was in order, locked the storage room, and left." "What time was that?" 10:30 at night. "The night shift didn't start until 11. Violet looked around at the storage layout. Something didn't add up. "Michael, who has access to the storage room besides authorized staff?" "Only management and supervisors, and the cleaning crew, of course." "Cleaning crew?" Violet raised an eyebrow. "What hours do they work?" "From 11 at night to 6, 0 inches the morning." "And did you check with them?" Michael hesitated. "Well, we didn't think that it was necessary. All the evidence clearly points to Maria." "What evidence?" Violet asked, crossing her arms. "So far, all I've heard are assumptions." Clara stepped in. "Violet, I know you want to protect the staff, but we can't ignore the facts." "What facts, Clara?" Violet turned to her with a cold stare. "Give me one solid fact that proves Maria took anything." "She was the last authorized person in the storage room before the theft was discovered." "So what? That doesn't prove anything." "Michael, bring me a full list of everyone who entered the storage room in the last 48 hours. "Vice President, I don't think I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm giving you an order." 20 minutes later, Michael returned with a printed report. Violet examined it carefully, while Maria waited anxiously, and Clara tapped her fingers impatiently. "Interesting," Violet murmured. "Maria went in at 10:30 last night and left at 10:45. But look here, Thomas Carter from the cleaning crew entered at 11:15, and there's no record of him leaving." "Must be a system error," Michael said quickly. "Or maybe Thomas forgot to clock out," added Clara. "That happens all the time." "Then let's speak to Thomas," said Violet. "Beatrice, bring Thomas Carter to my office right away." 15 minutes later, everyone was gathered in Violet's office. Thomas Carter was a nervous man in his 52nds, sweating heavily despite the air conditioning. "Thomas," Violet said calmly, "were you working in the storage room last night?" "Yes, ma'am, just the usual cleaning routine." "And do you remember seeing anything unusual?" Thomas hesitated, glancing nervously at Michael and Clara. "No, ma'am, everything seemed normal." "Are you sure?" Violet leaned forward. "Because your badge didn't record your exit." "Why is that?" I forgot to clock out." "Thomas, how long have you worked here?" 7 years, ma'am. And in 7 years, how often have you forgotten to clock out? Thomas swallowed hard. Rarely, ma'am. Violet stood and walked over to the window, thinking. Then she turned around with a determined expression. Thomas, let me ask you something. Where do you live? In the Bronx, ma'am. And how do you get home after your shift? By subway, ma'am. The subway at 6. 0 inches the morning must be packed. Hard to carry extra items, right? Thomas began to sweat even more. Yes, ma'am. That's why you left the champagne bottles in your locker here at the hotel, isn't it? So you could come back for them later when it was less crowded. Silence fell over the room. Thomas looked down, defeated. How did you figure it out? He whispered. Simple logic, Violet said. Maria doesn't drink. She has 2 young children and an impeccable reputation. She'd never steal something she couldn't even sell easily. You, on the other hand, have unrestricted access to the storage room during the night when no one is around. Michael was speechless. Thomas, is this true? I need the money, Thomas admitted, breaking down. My wife is sick, and the medication is expensive. Where are the bottles? Violet asked, not without compassion. In my locker in the staff room. Violet turned to Maria, who was crying with relief. Maria, you are completely cleared of any accusation, and I want you to know your job is secure. In fact, I'm promoting you to supervisor of the special events team. Thank you, ma'am. Maria could barely speak through the emotion. Thank you for believing in me. Michael, said Violet, turning to the supervisor, Thomas will be transferred to another department with reduced pay, but he won't be fired. We're going to help him find resources to take care of his wife. As for you, I hope this teaches you to investigate properly before making accusations. Yes, ma'am. I apologize for the mistake. Violet turned to Clara, who was visibly uncomfortable. Clara, I need to speak with you alone. Once everyone had left, Violet faced her subordinate. You knew it wasn't Maria, didn't you? What do you mean? You know every employee's financial situation, remember? Including Thomas's RAF or HN. I bet you knew he was desperate for money. Clara didn't reply, but her expression confirmed Violet's suspicion. You let Maria be accused unfairly, hoping I would fire her. Why? Because she's competent and well-liked. Violet, you're being paranoid. No, Clara, I'm being observant. This is your last chance to prove you can work as part of a team. The next time you try to sabotage an innocent colleague, you'll be looking for a job somewhere else. At that moment, the office door opened, and Sophia Parker walked in with her usual grandeur, wearing a royal blue Valentino dress and a proud smile. My dear daughter-in-law, she said, kissing Violet on the cheek. I just spoke with Maria in the hallway. She told me everything. Mrs. Parker, what are you doing here? I came for tonight's gala, of course, and good thing I did. I just witnessed a brilliant example of leadership and fairness. Sophia turned to Clara with a frosty smile. Clara, isn't it? I've heard quite a bit about you. Mrs. Parker, it's an honor. Is it? Sophia cut her off, because from what I've seen, you seem to have a tendency to create unnecessary problems. Madam, I was just quiet. Sophia raised her hand gracefully. Violet, dear, you handled this situation perfectly. Intelligence, compassion, and firmness. Exactly the qualities we expect from our family. Sophia opened her Hermes purse and pulled out a sealed envelope. This is for you, a small token of appreciation for your outstanding work. Violet opened the envelope and found a legal document. Her eyes widened as she read it. Mrs. Parker, this is a performance bonus equal to 20% of the shares you already own in the company, Sophia said casually. Now you have even more stake in the family business. Clara turned pale. Shares? What shares? Sophia smiled mysteriously. Ah, dear Clara, there's so much you don't know about our Violet. She's not just the vice president of this hotel. She's a co-owner of the entire Parker Group. How is that possible? Clara stammered. It's possible when you marry my son and prove day after day that you deserve to be part of this family, Sophia replied. Something some people will never understand. Sophia kissed Violet again. Dear, I need to get ready for the gala. I expect to see you shining tonight as always. After Sophia left, Clara looked at Violet with a mix of shock and envy. You really own part of the company? Apparently, yes, Violet said, still processing it. And Clara, I want you to understand something. I don't use that power to hurt anyone. I use it to protect those who deserve protection and to do what's right. Like Maria. Like any honest employee who's treated unfairly. Clara nodded slowly. Violet, I'm sorry. I accept your apology, Clara. but now we need to work together. We have a gala to run, and it's going to be perfect." That night, the Hamilton Foundation Charity Gala was an absolute success. Violet moved around the ballroom, receiving compliments from clients and guests, while Sophia Parker proudly introduced her as my brilliant daughter-in-law. Maria, in her new supervisor's uniform, directed the waitstaff with efficiency and confidence. Thomas worked quietly in the kitchen, grateful for his second chance. The morning after the gala, Violet was in her office reviewing client satisfaction reports when Liam appeared at the door. She still found it strange to see him at the hotel. After all, he had never mentioned having any connection to where she worked. "Good morning, wife," he said with an ironic smile, leaning against the doorframe. "Liam, what are you doing here?" "Business," he answered vaguely. "Actually, I came to invite you to something. My company is holding an accountability meeting this afternoon, and I'd like you to attend." Violet frowned. "Why would I go to one of your company's meetings?" "Because you have experience in hotel management, and we're analyzing investments in the industry. Your perspective would be valuable. Liam, you work in technology, not hotels." "Technology applied to many sectors, including hospitality," he said, keeping his tone casual. "Do you trust me?" Violet studied him for a moment. There was something he wasn't telling her, but curiosity got the better of her doubts. "All right, what time?" 3. "I'll pick you up here." After Liam left, Violet couldn't fully focus on her work. There was something strange in the way he talked about the company, as if he were hiding something important. Around noon, Beatrice walked into her office, looking concerned. "Vice President Parker, there's something I need to tell you. Clara was going through the computer files this morning." "What kind of files?" "Financial reports, hotel performance data, revenue projections." She printed several documents and left with them. Violet felt a chill in her stomach. "Thank you for telling me, Beatrice. Let's keep this just between us for now." At exactly 3, Liam appeared in the hotel lobby, wearing a dark gray suit that made him look even more serious and professional than usual. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready? Where are we going?" "Parker Tower, Financial District." The name sounded familiar, but Violet couldn't place it. During the taxi ride, Liam stayed quiet, checking messages on his phone with a focused expression. Parker Tower was an impressive glass and steel skyscraper in the heart of Manhattan. When they stepped into the elevator, Liam pressed the button for the 40th floor. "Big company," Violet commented. "Fairly big," he replied. But there was something in his tone she couldn't quite read. When the elevator doors opened, Violet found herself in a sleek hallway with glass walls revealing a large conference room. At least 20 people were already seated around a table the size of a small apartment. "Liam," she whispered, "this doesn't look like a casual investment meeting." Before he could respond, a receptionist approached them. "Mr. Parker, everyone is waiting." Violet stopped in her tracks. "Mr. Parker?" "Liam, what's going on here?" "I'll explain later," he said, guiding her into the room. "Just trust me for now." The meeting began with formal introductions. Violet was introduced as a special consultant in hotel management, but it was clear her presence sparked curiosity among the executives in the room. Everything seemed routine until the CFO, a bald man named Thompson, announced, "We have some concerns about the Meridian Hotel's performance last quarter." Violet straightened in her seat. This was her area. "What kind of concerns?" Liam asked. Thompson opened a folder and began reading. "According to the documents we received, there was a 15% drop in customer satisfaction, a 20% rise in operating costs, and at least 3 serious misconduct incidents by management." Violet felt the blood drain from her face. She knew those numbers, and they were all wrong. "Excuse me," she said, raising her hand. "May I see those documents?" Thompson hesitated and looked at Liam, who nodded. Violet quickly scanned the pages and felt her anger rising. The data had been deliberately manipulated. Numbers were changed, dates altered, entire reports fabricated. "These documents are false," she said calmly. A murmur spread around the room. Thompson looked offended. "Miss Parker, that's a very serious accusation." "Yes, it is," Violet agreed, standing up, "and I can prove it." She walked over to the whiteboard on the wall and picked up a marker. "First, let's talk about customer satisfaction. According to our real records, which I can access in real time through the hotel system," she pulled out her phone and opened the hotel platform. "Our satisfaction score rose to 93% this quarter." She wrote the numbers on the board. "Second, operating costs. Yes, they did increase. but only by 5% due to investments in upgrades that led to that rise in customer satisfaction. Violet continued presenting real data, countering each false claim from the documents. Her presentation was clear, logical, and impossible to dispute. "And about the misconduct incidents," she said, turning to face Thompson, "I'd like to know where that information came from, considering there were no reported incidents last quarter." The room fell completely silent. Liam watched with a mix of pride and amusement. "Also," Violet added, "to clear up any doubt about my ability to interpret this data, I can present the same report in English, Spanish, and French." She turned to the whiteboard and began writing fluently in all 3 languages, translating each key point of her presentation. The executives watched, clearly impressed. "And now," she said, writing quickly, "en español." Then she switched to French, services. When she finished, she turned to the room with a calm expression. "Now, I'd really like to know who provided these false documents and why." Thompson looked visibly uncomfortable. "I received those reports from an external source who identified herself as the hotel manager." "Name?" Violet asked coolly. "Clara Thornton." Violet nodded, not surprised. "And I imagine the same source suggested I wasn't the right person to represent this meeting." "Well, yes. She said you didn't have the proper qualifications to..." "To what?" Violet crossed her arms. "To manage a hotel with a 93% guest satisfaction rate, to organize events that generate millions in revenue, or to present accurate data in 3 languages." Liam stood up slowly, and for the first time since they entered the room, he took on a presence Violet had never seen in him before. Authoritative, confident, clearly someone used to being in charge. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said firmly, "I'd like to clarify a few things. First, Violet Parker is not just a consultant. She is vice president of the Meridian Hotel, and my wife." Murmurs filled the room. "Second, anyone who tries to sabotage her reputation or question her competence will be dealing directly with me. And third," he paused for effect, "I hope today made it clear what level of excellence we expect from our team." Thompson looked pale. "Mr. Parker, I didn't know she was your wife." "You do now," Liam said sharply, "and I hope that ends any further doubts about her qualifications." After the meeting, in the elevator going down, Violet finally turned to Liam. "All right, now you're going to explain what that was all about." Liam smiled, clearly more relaxed. "That was you proving how brilliant you are, Liam. They called you Mr. Parker. This is Parker Tech, isn't it?" "It is. And I'm the president of the company." Violet leaned against the wall of the elevator, trying to process. "You're the president of the company that owns the hotel I work for. Technically, my mother is chair of the board. I just handle day-to-day operations." "Liam, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to shine on your own, which you did today." The elevator doors opened on the ground floor, but Violet didn't move. "Did Clara know you were testing me?" "No. She genuinely tried to sabotage you by sending those fake reports. She thought she was hurting you and doing me a favor at the same time." Violet shook her head, still taking it all in. "Your family is more complicated than I thought. Wait until you meet my dad," Liam said with a smile. "But today, you were amazing. 3 languages." "Violet, really? Hotel management school. Language skills are required. Well, you impressed the whole room, including me." As they walked out of the building, Violet looked up and saw the Parker Tower rising majestically against the New York sky. "So, I'm actually married to the president of one of the biggest companies in the city." "Technically, yes. And Clara tried to sabotage me without realizing she was trying to bring down her own boss's wife." "Yes." Violet started laughing, first quietly, then louder and louder. "What?" Liam asked, puzzled. "It's just... poor Clara. She really has no idea what she got herself into, does she?" Liam smiled too. "None. But you do." And for the first time since their arranged marriage, Violet looked at Liam and thought that maybe, just maybe, being married to him wasn't the worst thing that had ever happened to her. On the way home, they talked more in 30 minutes than they had in all the previous weeks combined. "So," Violet said, still processing everything, "your mother really arranged our marriage, knowing exactly who you were and where I worked. Knowing my mother, she probably investigated your entire life before our wedding day." Liam replied, laughing. "Sophia Parker doesn't do anything by chance. That explains a lot. Like how she knew I worked at the Meridian, and about my financial situation." Liam nodded and smiled. They sat in silence for a few minutes, watching the city go by. Finally, Liam turned to her. "Violet, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you regret saying yes to marrying me?" She thought carefully before answering. "Honestly, in the beginning, yes. I thought you were all completely crazy. But now, I don't know. It's been interesting." "Interesting?" That's a polite way of saying chaotic, unpredictable, and strangely fun. Liam laughed. "That's the best description of my family I've ever heard." "And you?" Violet asked. "Do you regret it?" "Surprisingly, no," he said, looking straight into her eyes. "Actually, I wanted to invite you to something else." "What kind of invitation?" "Because if it's for another business meeting, I'd rather not." "No," Liam laughed. "Dinner tonight. A real dinner, not those weird meals we have at home where we pretend we're just roommates." Violet felt something strange in her stomach. Like a date? Exactly like a date. She studied him for a moment. There was something different about Liam since the meeting. Less formal, more genuine. "All right," she finally said, "but I picked the restaurant. Deal." 3 hours later, Liam was standing at the door of a small Italian restaurant in the village, clearly out of his comfort zone. The place was cozy, with tables far too close to one another and a menu written by hand on a chalkboard. "Violet," he said when she arrived, "are you sure this is the right place?" "Liam, you've eaten in Michelin-starred restaurants your whole life. Tonight, you're going to try real food." The waiter, a genuine Italian named Antonio, led them to a tiny table by the window. "First time here?" Antonio asked Liam, his accent thick. "Yes," Liam replied, looking nervously at the handwritten menu. "Ah, leave it to me then," Antonio said excitedly. "I'll make something special." Liam whispered to Violet. "He didn't even ask what we want to eat. That's how it works here. Antonio decides what you need to eat based on your face. And what face do I have? Someone who's never eaten homemade pasta in his life." Antonio returned with a bottle of red wine and 2 steaming plates of linguine alle vongole. "Ecco!" he exclaimed, serving generously. "Linguine with clams, made the way my nonna used to make in Naples." Liam stared at the plate full of clams as if they were aliens. "Antonio," Violet said, "my husband here is a little inexperienced with seafood." "Husband?" Antonio's eyes widened. "Madonna mia, newlyweds." "Something like that," Liam muttered. "Allora," Antonio clapped his hands. "Tonight is special. Romance, amore, passion." He disappeared into the kitchen and returned with candles, which he lit dramatically on their table, murmuring something in Italian that was clearly blessings for the marriage. "Violet," Liam whispered. "He's making a scene. Relax. It's sweet." Liam tried eating the linguine with a knife and fork, as if he were at a formal dinner. Violet laughed. "Liam, you're eating pasta, not performing heart surgery. Is there a right way to eat this?" "Like this," she showed him, twirling the pasta on her fork with the help of a spoon. "See? Simple." Liam tried to copy her but ended up with half the plate on his chin. Violet laughed so hard she almost spilled her wine. "Don't laugh at me," he said. But he was smiling too. "Sorry, but you should see yourself." The great president of Parker, defeated by a plate of pasta, Antonio appeared again, this time with a small accordion. "Per gli sposini," he announced, starting to play a romantic Italian song. "Oh no," Liam murmured. "Oh yes," Violet said, thoroughly enjoying herself. Antonio began to sing in Italian, gesturing dramatically as other customers stopped to watch. Liam was as red as the marinara sauce, but Violet clapped enthusiastically. "Bravissimo, Antonio," she shouted. When the song ended, the whole restaurant applauded. Antonio bowed theatrically and returned to the kitchen. "I'm never letting you pick where we eat again," Liam said, trying to hide behind the menu. "Admit it, it was fun. It was different." "Liam, when was the last time you did something spontaneous? Something that wasn't on your schedule?" He thought for a moment. "Honestly, I don't remember." "That's sad. It's practical. It's boring." Liam looked her in the eyes. "You think I'm boring?" "I used to," she said, smiling. "But you're getting better." After dinner, they walked through the village streets. The night was cool, and Violet pulled her coat tighter. "Are you cold?" Liam asked. "A little." Without thinking, he took off his own coat and placed it over her shoulders. The gesture was so natural that both were surprised. "Thank you," she said softly. They stopped in front of a small square with a lit fountain. A few people passed by, but the place was fairly quiet. "Violet," Liam said, turning to her. I need to tell you something. What is it? He hesitated, as if gathering courage. When my mother suggested we get married, I thought she'd completely lost her mind. I thought it would be the worst decision of my life. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Violet said. But she was smiling. Let me finish, he said, laughing nervously. I was wrong. Completely wrong. He took a step closer to her. These past few weeks, watching you work, seeing how you deal with people, how you stand up for those who need it. Violet, you made me realize I'd been living only half a life. Liam, no, let me finish, he said, his voice growing more intense. I fell in love with you, truly, not because of the arranged marriage, not out of convenience, but because of who you really are. Violet felt her heart race. Are you sure? Absolutely, he said, stepping even closer. The question is, do you feel anything for me other than pity for the guy who can't eat spaghetti properly? She laughed, though her eyes filled with tears. Liam, you're annoying, obsessive, completely unspontaneous, and you organize books by color. That's not sounding very hopeful. But, she went on, placing a hand on his cheek, you're also kind, smart. You have a smile. You hide too much. And you make me feel like I can take on the world, and that means... It means I might have fallen for my crazy husband, too. Liam smiled. That genuine smile she was starting to love, and leaned in to kiss her. But at the last second, he tripped on the edge of the fountain. Liam! Violet caught him before he fell into the water. Perfect, he said, laughing at himself. Most romantic moment of my life, and I nearly fall into a fountain. Idiot, she said affectionately, pulling him close. This time when he kissed her, there were no stumbles. The kiss started soft, hesitant, like they were still getting used to the idea that this was real. Then it deepened, and Violet felt like the entire world had stopped around them. When they finally pulled apart, they were both out of breath. Wow, she whispered. That's a good reaction, he said, smiling. Liam, what if we went home? Of course it's getting late anyway. No, she said, looking into his eyes. Home together? For real? Understanding slowly spread across Liam's face. Violet, are you sure? I'm sure. I want to find out what it's really like to be married to you. They walked hand in hand to the apartment, the energy between them shifting from nervous to electric. In the elevator, Liam pulled her close again, kissing her against the wall. Are you sure about this? He murmured against her lips. Liam, stop asking and kiss me. And he did. That night, Violet and Liam's arranged marriage finally became something real. And Sophia Parker, who at that very moment was having tea in her apartment 3 blocks away, smiled mysteriously to herself, as if she knew exactly what was happening. Mission accomplished, she whispered, toasting alone with her porcelain teacup. 2 weeks after the night that changed everything between Violet and Liam, they were enjoying a quiet breakfast in the apartment when the intercom rang insistently. Are you expecting anyone? Liam asked, glancing at the clock. It's 8:00 the morning. No, Violet replied, frowning. Beatrice doesn't work on Saturdays. Liam answered the intercom, and a familiar female voice echoed through the apartment. Violet, it's me, your sister Abigail. We're downstairs. Violet nearly dropped her coffee cup. Abigail, what are you doing in New York? Surprise. Can we come up? Liam looked at Violet, who was visibly nervous. Family, my younger sister, and from the sound of it, probably my parents, too, she said, running a hand through her hair. Liam, I haven't spoken to them in almost 2 years. Why not? It's complicated. They didn't approve of my life choices, and I didn't approve of their expectations. You know how it goes. Want me to leave? No, she said quickly. Actually, I think it's time you met where I come from. 5 minutes later, the apartment door opened, and Violet found herself in the arms of a 5-year-old woman with curly hair and a smile just like hers. Violet, Abigail exclaimed, you look amazing in this apartment. Oh my God. Behind Abigail came Henry and Evelyn Harper, Violet's parents. Henry was tall and thin, with gray hair and calloused hands that showed a life of manual work. Evelyn was delicate, with the same green eyes as her daughter, but a more reserved expression. Sweetheart, Evelyn said, hugging Violet gently, are you all right? I'm great, Mom, Violet replied, still trying to process the surprise visit. But what are you all doing here? Oh, right. Abigail turned to Liam, who had been watching everything with interest. "You must be the famous husband. I'm Abigail, Violet's younger and favorite sister." "Liam Parker," he said, offering his hand with a smile. "Nice to meet you." Henry stepped forward and shook Liam's hand firmly, clearly sizing him up. "Henry Harper, Violet's father. I hear you two got married rather quickly." "Dad," Violet said in a warning tone. "It's all right," Liam said diplomatically. "It was a whirlwind romance." "That's true." Evelyn looked around the apartment, clearly impressed. "Violet, sweetheart, this place is very elegant. Liam has good taste in decorating," Violet said, feeling the tension in the air. "And what exactly do you do?" Henry asked. Getting straight to the point, "Technology," Liam answered. "I run a company here in Manhattan." Abigail laughed. "Dad, are you giving him the overprotective father-in-law talk? Violet's 30. "She's right," Violet added. "Come on, have a seat. Can I get you some coffee? Breakfast?" While Violet made coffee and Liam tried to break the ice by chatting about the Knicks with Henry, Abigail pulled her sister aside into the kitchen. "Vi, I need to talk to you," she whispered. "We didn't just come to meet your husband. I figured, what's going on? Remember Mom and Dad's antique shop? Of course, is it still open?" "Not just open, it's thriving," Abigail said excitedly. "Dad found out he has a real talent for restoring old furniture, and Mom started selling online. They've got orders coming in from all over the Northeast." Violet gave a genuine smile for the first time since her family arrived. "That's wonderful. I always knew Dad had a gift. The problem is, they've reached the limit of what they can handle alone. They need to expand, hire people, buy better equipment, but they don't have the capital." "Oh," Violet said, finally understanding. "You're asking for a loan." "Not a loan," Abigail said quickly. "An investor. Someone who believes in the business and wants to be a part of it." Violet was quiet for a moment. "Abigail, I have some savings, but I'm not sure if—" "We're not asking for your money," Abigail interrupted. "We're asking for your help to find someone who might be interested." They went back to the living room, where Henry was showing Liam photos on his phone. "Take a look at this cabinet I restored last month," Henry was saying proudly. "It was in terrible shape when I found it, but look at it now." Liam studied the photos with genuine interest. "Impressive work, Mr. Billionaire. Harper, how long did it take?" 3 weeks, just working in my spare time. If I did it full time, I could finish one in a week." "And how much did you sell it for?" $1,200. I bought it for $50. Liam let out a low whistle. "That's a great profit margin." Evelyn joined the conversation. "Liam, the online part of the business grew 300% in the last year. We have a 2-month waiting list for restored pieces." "Mom," Violet said, surprised. "You're running a business now." "Your mother's always had a good head for business," Henry said. "It just took me 30 years to start listening to her advice." Abigail told Liam about the expansion plans, while Violet watched her family with new eyes. They weren't the same people she had left 2 years ago. There was a new energy, a clear sense of purpose. "I see," Liam said after hearing everything. "You need funding to grow, but you want to keep it a family-run business." "Exactly," Henry said. "We're not looking to sell our soul. Just open up more opportunities." Liam stood and walked to the window, thoughtful. Violet knew him well enough by now to see that he was working something out in his head. "Mr. and Mrs. Harper," he finally said, "how about I make you an offer?" "Liam," Violet said, nervous. "You don't have to—" "Let me finish," he said, smiling at her. "You need investment. I need to diversify some assets. How about a real partnership?" Henry raised an eyebrow. "What kind of partnership?" "Parker Tech invests $200,000 to help expand your business. You keep 70% ownership, and we take 30%. Along with the money, we'll provide tech consulting to improve your online sales and logistics." The room went completely silent. Evelyn held Henry's hand. $200,000, Henry murmured. "Son, that's 10 times more than what we thought we needed." "With that amount," Liam explained, "you could open a second shop, hire a full team, and still have plenty for digital marketing." He turned to Abigail. "You studied business, right?" "Yes, I graduated 2 years ago." "Perfect. You'd be our point of contact between Parker and the family business. Competitive salary, full benefits." Abigail looked at her parents, then at Violet, not sure what to say. "Liam," Violet said, touching his arm, "can I talk to you for a minute? Privately?" They walked into the bedroom, leaving the Harper family quietly processing the proposal. "Liam, that's very generous," But you don't know my father. He's too proud to accept charity. This isn't charity, Liam said. Seriously. Violet, I quickly went over the numbers they mentioned. This business has real potential to grow. High profit margin. Rising demand. Competitive advantage. It's a smart investment. Are you sure? Absolutely. Besides, he smiled warmly. They're your family. And now they're my family. 2. When they went back to the living room, Henry was looking at some photos on Evelyn's phone. Liam, he said, this offer is very generous, but I have to be honest, I've never worked with corporate investors. I'm afraid of losing control of what I built. I understand completely, said Liam. How about this? We do a 6-month trial period. If you're not happy with the partnership, we'll buy back our share for the amount invested plus 10%. Evelyn looked at her husband. Henry, this could be the chance we've been waiting for. And how would Violet be involved? Henry asked. As a family consultant, Liam replied immediately. She understands both the business and the personal side. She'd be perfect to make sure the partnership works for everyone. Abigail practically jumped off the couch. Dad, Mom, you have to accept this. This is the opportunity of our lives. Henry looked at Violet. Honey, what do you think? Violet felt her eyes fill with tears. 2 years ago, when she left home, things had been tense and cold. Now, her father was asking for her opinion on an important family decision. I think you've built something beautiful, she said, and I think you deserve the chance to see how far it can go. Henry extended his hand to Liam. Partner, you've got a deal. While Liam and Henry discussed practical details, Evelyn walked over to Violet. Honey, I want to apologize for how things were when you left home. Mom. No. Let me say it. You were right to follow your own dreams. And look what you've achieved. She looked around the apartment, then at Liam. I'm proud of you. Violet hugged her mother, feeling as if a weight she had carried for years had finally been lifted. I missed you too, she murmured. Abigail joined the hug. Harper family reunited, and now with a billionaire partner. Billionaire? Violet asked, looking at Liam. She's exaggerating, Liam said, blushing slightly. I'm just very well off. Henry laughed. Son, it doesn't matter how much money you have. What matters is that you make my daughter happy, and judging by her smile, you're doing a good job. That afternoon, while the Harper family explored Manhattan with Liam acting as their personal tour guide, Violet realized her life had completely changed. Not only had she found love where she least expected, but she had also reconnected with her family, and for the first time in a long while, the future felt full of endless possibilities. 6 weeks after the Harper family's visit, Violet was in her office at the hotel when a sudden wave of nausea hit her. She rushed to the private bathroom, holding her mouth, and when she came back, Beatrice was looking at her with concern. Vice President Parker, are you all right? This is the 3rd time this week. Violet froze mid-step as a sudden realization struck her like lightning. 3 weeks of morning sickness, unexplained fatigue, and her period was late. Beatrice, cancel my appointments for this afternoon, she said, grabbing her bag quickly. I need to take care of something urgent. An hour later, Violet was sitting in her bathroom at home, staring at 2 pregnancy tests, showing the same result. Positive. Oh my God, she whispered, torn between panic and excitement. Oh my God, oh my God. She heard the front door open, and Liam's voice echoed through the apartment. Violet, I'm home. Beatrice called me saying you left early. I'm here, she shouted, still in shock. Liam appeared at the bedroom door. Are you all right? Beatrice said you weren't feeling. He stopped when he saw her expression and the tests in her hand. Violet, are those positive? Yes, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Liam, I'm pregnant. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before Liam crossed the room in 2 strides, picked Violet up in his arms, and spun her around the house. Really? He shouted, laughing. Really, Liam? Put me down. I'm nauseous. He gently set her on the couch, knelt in front of her, and held her hands. How are you feeling? Are you happy? Scared? Should we call a doctor? Schedule tests? Liam. Breathe, she said, laughing at his excitement. I'm happy. Scared, too, but happy. We're going to have a baby, he said, like he was testing the words, a baby, Violet. We're going to have a baby, she repeated, and this time, she could feel the full joy of it, without fear. Liam kissed her gently. I love you so much. I love you too. The following week, they told Sophia, who reacted like she had just won the lottery, she cried, shouted, and immediately started planning how to turn one of the extra rooms into a nursery fit for royalty. That was also the week Lauren Bennett came into their lives. Violet was having lunch with Liam at a restaurant near Parker Tower when an elegant woman walked up to their table. She was tall, blonde, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than most people make in a month. "Liam Parker," she said with a bright smile. "What a wonderful coincidence to run into you here." Liam looked up, clearly not recognizing her at first. "Sorry, you are Lauren Bennett, from Bennett Industries. We met at the country club charity event last month." "Oh, right, Lauren. This is my wife, Violet." Lauren's smile faltered for just a second. "Wife? I didn't know you got married." "Recently," Liam said, taking Violet's hand across the table. "How interesting," Lauren said quickly, recovering. "Well, I don't want to interrupt, but Liam, I'd love to talk to you about some business opportunities. How about we schedule a lunch?" "You can reach out to my assistant," Liam said politely. "She handles all my professional appointments." After Lauren left, Violet raised an eyebrow. "Who was that?" "Daughter of the owner of Bennett Industries, one of the biggest investment firms on the East Coast. And she seemed interested in more than just business." Liam laughed. "Violet, are you jealous?" "Maybe just a little." "Well, don't be. I only have eyes for my pregnant wife." 3 days later, Lauren showed up at Liam's office unannounced, walking right past the receptionist like she owned the place. "Liam," she said as she entered his office, "we need to talk." "Lauren, you should have scheduled a meeting." "This can't wait," she said, sitting in the chair across from his desk. "Liam, I'll be direct. Our companies together would be an unbeatable force in the market. A Bennett-Parker merger would dominate 3 industries. Thanks for the offer. But Parker isn't interested in any mergers at the moment." "What if I said, there's more to this than just business?" She leaned in. "Liam, we both know strategic marriages are common in our world. You and I together would be Lauren." Liam interrupted firmly. "I'm married, happily married." "To who? That girl from the restaurant?" Lauren laughed dismissively. "Liam, be realistic. You need a wife who understands your world, who can complement your business. Someone from your social level, someone like you, exactly like me." Liam stood up. "Lauren, let me be very clear. I love my wife. I'm not interested in mergers, partnerships, or any arrangement involving you. And if you can't take no for an answer, we may need to reconsider any professional ties between our companies." Lauren stood up too, her face red with anger and humiliation. "You're going to regret this, Liam. When your little wife shows you who she really is, you'll regret it." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Liam took a deep breath and called security, instructing them that Lauren Bennett was no longer allowed in the building without his express permission. That same afternoon, Sophia Parker showed up at Liam's office unannounced, something she rarely did. "Mom, what are you doing here? I heard that snake Lauren Bennett came by to bother you today." Liam sighed. "How did you find out?" "Sweetheart, I have eyes and ears all over Manhattan." She stormed out of here and went straight to the club to tell her friends that you rejected her because of some gold digger who married you for your money. She said that about Violet, among other worse things. Sophia said, sitting down gracefully. "Liam, I need to tell you something about your wife." Liam's heart started beating faster. "What is it?" "Before Violet agreed to marry you, I looked into her background, her finances, her history, her family. Do you know what I found?" "What?" "She had $5,000 in her checking account, was paying rent on a tiny apartment she shared with a friend, and was working 60 hours a week just to keep up with the bills. If she was a gold digger, she'd be the worst one in history." Liam relaxed, smiling. "Mom, I know exactly who Violet is. I know you know, but I want you to remember that whenever someone like Lauren Bennett questions your wife's intentions, you have my full support to send them packing." "Thanks, Mom." Sophia stood up and kissed her son on the cheek. "Besides, Violet gave me something no ambitious heiress ever could." "What's that?" "She made me truly happy, and now she's giving me a grandchild." Sophia smiled mysteriously. "Oh yes, she told me about the pregnancy. Congratulations, sweetheart." After Sophia left, Liam stayed in his office alone, thinking about how much his life had changed in just a few months. He had a wife he truly loved, a baby on the way, and a family that finally made sense. And if Lauren Bennett or anyone else thought they could mess with that, they were completely wrong. Liam picked up the phone and called Violet. "Hey, love," she answered right away. "Hi, how are you and our baby doing?" "A little nauseous, but happy." "Why?" "I just wanted to hear your voice," he said, smiling. I love you, Violet. I love you, too. Always. The annual Manhattan Business Elite Gala was the most important event on the city's social calendar, held at the Metropolitan Museum. It brought together the most influential names in business, politics, and society. Liam and Violet arrived together, she glowing in a navy blue dress that subtly hid the early signs of pregnancy. Are you sure you're feeling okay? Liam asked for the 10th time as he helped her out of the car. Liam, I'm pregnant, not helpless, Violet said with a laugh. Besides, I really want to meet this famous father of yours you've been avoiding talking about. Liam made a face. Victor Parker isn't exactly known for being subtle or kind. Just don't take anything he says personally, okay? They walked into the main hall, where hundreds of people moved around among ancient sculptures and priceless works of art. Sophia Parker was already there, looking stunning in a gold dress, chatting with a group of high society women. My darlings, she said, kissing them both. Violet, you look absolutely stunning. How are you feeling? Better every day, Violet replied. Where's Mr. Victor? Liam said he'd be here. Sophia pointed to the far side of the hall, where a tall, commanding man was talking with a group of businessmen. Victor Parker had the same build as Liam, but with a much sterner, more imposing look. There he is, probably discussing how to take over a few more markets, Sophia said, with a touch of sarcasm. Liam was about to take Violet over to meet his father when Lauren Bennett suddenly appeared, blocking their path. Liam, she said brightly. What a wonderful coincidence. And Violet, right? What an interesting dress. Hello, Lauren, Violet said politely. How are you? Very well, thank you. Actually, I was hoping to talk to Liam about that proposal we discussed. Lauren, Liam said firmly, I already told you I'm not interested. Oh, but maybe you'll change your mind when you hear how excited your father is about the idea of a partnership between our families. Before Liam could respond, a deep voice came from behind them. Liam, finally, I need a word with you. Victor approached, completely ignoring Violet and focusing all his attention on his son. Dad, Liam said cautiously, this is my wife, Violet. Victor looked at Violet like he was seeing her for the first time, which he probably was. Wife? He asked, confused. Liam, what are you talking about? We got married a few months ago, Liam explained. I thought Mom told you. Sophia didn't mention anything about a wedding, Victor said, clearly irritated, and this seriously complicates the plans we had for you. Lauren stepped forward with a sly smile. Mr. Parker, maybe I can clarify things. Liam and I have been talking about a strategic partnership between our companies, which would also include a personal union. Exactly, Victor said, perking up. Lauren, darling, you'd be perfect for Liam. A merger between Parker and Bennett Industries would be... Dad, Liam interrupted, raising his voice. I'm already married to Violet, and I'm not interested in Lauren or any business merger. Liam, be reasonable, Victor said, lowering his voice but keeping the stern tone. You can't let teenage feelings get in the way of smart business decisions. The room was starting to notice the rising tension. Conversations stopped, and people began turning to watch the drama unfold. Violet felt her blood boil. Excuse me, Mr. Parker, but your son isn't a teenager. He's a grown man who can make his own decisions. Victor looked at her with disdain. Young lady, you clearly don't understand how business works in our family. Actually, said a firm, elegant voice behind them, the one who doesn't understand how business works in our family is you, Victor. Sophia Parker walked forward with confident steps, wearing an expression Liam recognized as extremely dangerous. Sophia, Victor said, clearly surprised by his wife's intervention. We were just discussing Liam's future. Liam's future is already decided, Sophia said calmly. He's married to Violet. They're expecting my first grandchild, and they're perfectly happy. Laura Mentale. Grandchild? That's right, dear, Sophia said with a cold smile. Violet is pregnant. So your attempts to seduce my son are not only inappropriate, but also completely useless. Victor tried to regain control of the situation. Sophia, regardless of the fact that Liam is temporarily married. Temporarily? Sophia raised an eyebrow. Victor, I think you misunderstood. This isn't a temporary marriage. It's a real marriage built on real love. Sophia, you're being dramatic. Dramatic? Sophia laughed, but there was no humor in her voice. Victor, you want to talk about drama. Sophia opened her Hermes bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Here's your drama, dear. She handed the envelope to Victor, who opened it in confusion. His expression changed drastically as he read its contents. "Divorce papers," he muttered in disbelief. "Signed, stamped, and ready to be filed. Sophia confirmed. Victor, after 35 years of marriage, I'm divorcing you." The entire ballroom went silent. Even the waiters stopped serving. "Sophia, have you lost your mind?" Victor stammered. "On the contrary, I've finally come to my senses," Sophia said calmly. "For years, I've watched you try to control our son's life as if he were just a chess piece in your business games. But when you disrespected my daughter-in-law and tried to break up a happy marriage for the sake of an ambitious, well, that was the last straw." Sophia turned to Violet and Liam. "My dears, I have a belated wedding gift for you." She pulled out another document from her bag. "Liam, Violet, with this document, I'm transferring all my Parker Tech shares to Violet. That means she now controls 55% of the company." Liam was speechless. "Sophia, you can't do that," Victor said. "I can, and I already did," Sophia replied with a smile. "Violet, my dear, you are now the majority owner of Parker Tech. Congratulations." Lauren looked as if she were about to faint. Victor was red with rage and shock. "Sophia, this is madness. You're handing over my company to a stranger." "Your company?" Sophia laughed. "Victor, you seem to have forgotten that Parker Tech was built with my family's money. And Violet is not a stranger. She's my daughter-in-law, the mother of my future grandchild, and apparently the only person in this family with common sense." Sophia kissed Violet and Liam on the cheek. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a new life to begin." She walked out with poise, leaving behind a stunned ballroom, a humiliated rival, an ex-husband in shock, and a young couple who had just discovered they controlled a business empire. "Well," Violet finally said, looking at Liam, "I think our life just got interesting." "Interesting is a polite way of saying completely insane," Liam muttered. "Liam," Violet said, taking his hand, "your mother just gave me control of the family company. Are you okay with that?" Liam looked at her, then at his father, still frozen in shock, then at Lauren, walking away in humiliation, and finally smiled. "Violet, if someone has to control this company, I'd rather it be you than anyone else in this room." And as they walked out of the gala together, Violet thought that Sophia Parker was definitely the most spectacular mother-in-law anyone could ever have. On the Monday after the gala that changed everything, Violet arrived at Parker Tower at 8:00 the morning. As the new majority owner of the company, she had a full schedule, meetings with directors, contract reviews, and one particular task she had been postponing for weeks. Beatrice greeted her in the office on the 40th floor, which was now officially hers, with a stack of documents and an anxious expression. "President Parker," she said, still getting used to the new title, "all departments are waiting for your directives, and well, there's someone who's been waiting to speak with you for an hour. It's Clara Thornton. She said it's urgent, and that she needs to explain herself." Violet let out a sigh. Ever since the news of her new position had spread through the company, she knew this moment would come. Clara was probably desperate now, trying to save herself before Violet made decisions about her future. "Send her in." 5 minutes later, Clara walked into the office with a look that was somewhere between nervous and trying to hold on to a last bit of dignity. She wore her best suit and carried a leather folder like she was heading into a job interview. "Violet," Clara began, forcing a smile, or rather, "President Parker, congratulations on the promotion. Very well deserved." "Thank you, Clara," Violet said calmly, motioning to the chair across from her desk. "Please have a seat." Clara cleared her throat nervously. "Violet, I came here to clear up a few misunderstandings from the past. I know there were some tensions, but I'm hoping we can move forward and work together productively." Violet studied her for a moment. There was so much fear in Clara's eyes. She almost felt sorry for her. "Almost. Misunderstandings?" she repeated slowly. "Is that what you call deliberate sabotage, false documents, and attempts to ruin my professional reputation?" Clara went pale. "Violet, yes, there were some conflicts, but—" "Clara," Violet interrupted gently, "do you really think I don't know you gave me false information before that meeting? That you hoped I'd be fired so you could take my place?" Clara made one last attempt. "Violet, that's paranoia. I would never, Clara. I have emails. I have phone records. I have witnesses," Violet said, opening a folder on her desk. "You weren't exactly discreet when you teamed up with Ethan to undermine me." The office fell completely silent. Clara stared at her hands, visibly sweating, so Violet continued. Let's stop pretending this was all just a misunderstanding and deal with the reality of the situation. At that moment, Liam walked into the office. Sorry to interrupt, but Beatrice said it was important for me to be here. It is, Violet said, smiling at her husband. Liam, you remember Clara, don't you? Of course, Liam said, sitting next to Violet. She's the one responsible for the false documents at the meeting. Clara tried to defend herself. Mr. Parker. There was a misunderstanding, Clara. Liam said coldly. Let's skip the part where you try to explain the unexplainable. Violet, what's your decision? Violet took a deep breath. She'd spent a lot of time thinking about this moment. The vengeful part of her wanted to humiliate Clara, destroy her career, like she had tried to destroy hers. But the more mature part knew that wouldn't make her a better person. Clara, she said finally, you're fired, effective immediately. Clara began to cry silently, but Violet went on. Before you think this is just revenge, I want you to know I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. Clara looked up, her eyes red. What do you mean? I mean, I understand where your envy and ambition come from. We both came from similar places. We fought for the same opportunities. The difference is you chose to tear someone down to move up, and I chose to work hard and trust my abilities. Violet, Let me finish, Violet said calmly. You have talent, Clara. You're smart, organized, and when you're not trying to sabotage people, you're actually a capable employee. Liam watched his wife with growing admiration, seeing how she was handling the situation with grace and maturity. That's why, Violet continued, opening her desk drawer, here's a letter of recommendation highlighting your administrative skills without mentioning our personal conflicts, and a severance package equal to 3 months' salary. Clara took the envelope with trembling hands. Violet, why are you doing this? Because everyone deserves a second chance, Violet said, and because holding on to resentment only hurts the one who carries it, not the one who caused it. I don't deserve your kindness, Clara whispered. Maybe not. But I deserve the peace of knowing I did the right thing, Violet said. Clara, you have the potential to succeed, but you need to stop seeing other women as enemies and start seeing them as possible allies. Liam leaned forward. Clara, the envy you've been holding on to has no place here anymore. Violet is offering you a dignified way out. I suggest you take it and use it as a chance to grow. Clara wiped away her tears. You two are better people than I thought. We're not better than anyone, Violet said gently. We're just trying to be better than we were yesterday. Violet, Clara said, standing up. I'm sorry for everything, for the jealousy, the sabotage, for trying to destroy something you built on your own merit. I accept your apology, Clara, and I truly hope you find a place where you can use your talents in a positive way without needing to hurt anyone. Can I ask you something? Of course. How can you not hate me after everything I did? Violet gave her a gentle smile. Because hate is a weight I choose not to carry. And deep down I know your anger wasn't really about me. It was about a world that made you believe there was only room for one of us. Clara nodded, clearly moved. Thank you for showing me there's another way to handle conflict. Now, Violet said, you have 1 hour to pack your things. Beatrice will walk with you to make sure everything goes smoothly. After Clara left, Liam looked at Violet with deep admiration. You were amazing. I was fair, she corrected him. Liam, if I had taken revenge, I would have become just like her. And that's not who I want to be. That's why I fell in love with you, he said, giving her a soft kiss. You always choose the harder path, but the right one. Besides, Violet added with a smile, now that she's no longer here causing trouble, I can focus on what really matters. What's that? Turning this company into a place where people like Maria can thrive, where talent is recognized no matter the last name, and where our child can be proud of the family legacy. Liam hugged her. Our child is going to have the wisest mom in the world. Through the window, they watched Clara leaving the building with her box of personal items. There was no triumph or satisfaction in the scene, just the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. You know what's funny? Violet said. What? A few months ago, I was just an event coordinator trying to survive in Manhattan. Now I'm here. Pregnant. Married. Running a company. And genuinely happy. My mom always says that when you choose love instead of fear, the universe works in your favor. Your mom is a wise woman, and so are you becoming one. 6 months after the episode with Clara, Violet was in her office at Parker Tower, reviewing the quarterly reports when Liam appeared at the door with a mysterious look and a bouquet of red roses. Liam, she said, looking over her reading glasses, what are you doing here in the middle of the afternoon? I came to kidnap my wife for a very important appointment, he said with a smile. What appointment? My schedule's full, until 6. Beatrice already cleared it all, he said, reaching out his hand. Do you trust me? Violet looked at her husband, noticing how nervous and excited he looked all at once. 7 months pregnant, she was glowing, and Liam seemed to fall more in love with her every day. Always, she said, taking his hand. They rode the elevator to the rooftop of Parker Tower, a place Violet rarely visited. When the doors opened, she gasped. The rooftop had been transformed into a magical garden with golden lights hanging between potted trees, rose petals scattered on the floor, and a breathtaking view of Manhattan at sunset. Liam, she whispered, what is all this? He led her to the center of the terrace, where an arch decorated with white and gold flowers stood. Violet, he said, stopping and turning to face her. 8 months ago, we got married because my mom forced us. It was out of convenience, pressure, and a whole lot of crazy circumstances. Liam, let me finish, he said, smiling nervously. Today, I want to marry you again. But this time out of love, by choice, because I can't imagine my life without you and our family. Liam got down on one knee and pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. When he opened it, there was a stunning diamond ring, simple and elegant. Violet Harper Parker, he said, his voice shaking, will you marry me for real this time? Violet was crying and laughing at the same time. Liam, we're already married. Technically, yes, but romantically, I want to do it right. So, will you? Yes, she said, throwing her arms around him as best she could with the baby bump. Of course, I will. As they pulled back from the kiss, Sophia Parker suddenly appeared out of nowhere, clapping and crying with emotion. My darlings, she exclaimed. Finally, a proper proposal in this family. Mom, Liam laughed. You were hiding here the whole time? Of course, someone had to capture the moment, she said, waving to a professional photographer who stepped forward discreetly. Sophia, Violet said, laughing, you never stop surprising us. Darling, life's too short not to celebrate special moments. And speaking of celebrating, how about a real wedding in 3 weeks? 3 weeks later, Central Park was decorated like a fairy tale. The ceremony was outdoors near the lake, with 200 guests, including the Harper family, who had traveled especially for the event, and practically all of Manhattan's elite. Violet was in a suite at the Plaza Hotel, with Emma helping her get ready. Her wedding dress was an exclusive design that fit her 8-month pregnant belly perfectly, made of ivory silk with delicate embroidery. You look absolutely stunning, Emma said, adjusting the veil. Who would have thought that mess at the cafe would end in a fairy tale wedding? Emma, thank you for being here, for being my maid of honor, for not thinking I'm crazy for marrying the same man twice. Violet, you're glowing with happiness. That's all that matters, Emma said, hugging her carefully. Besides, how many people can say they were forced to marry and then fell madly in love? Abigail, Violet's sister, walked in carrying the bouquet. Vi, Dad's downstairs crying because he's walking you down the aisle. Mom's trying to comfort him, but she's crying too. And Liam, nervous like a teenager on his first date. Abigail laughed. Sophia's trying to calm him down, but I think she's more nervous than he is. Half an hour later, Violet walked down the red carpet toward the altar, with Henry Harper by her side. Liam waited under an arch of white and gold flowers, wearing a flawless tuxedo and a smile that lit up his entire face. When she reached the altar, Henry kissed her forehead and whispered, I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Very proud. Liam took Violet's hands, and this time, when the officiant asked if they took each other as husband and wife, there were no doubts, no threats, no convenience. I do, they both said, tears in their eyes and genuine smiles on their faces. When they kissed as husband and wife for the second time, but the first for true love, the entire audience burst into applause. Sophia Parker was in the front row, crying openly and whispering to Evelyn Harper, my plan worked perfectly. I knew they were meant for each other from day one. Mrs. Parker, Evelyn laughed. You're a very skilled Cupid. Darling, call me Sophia. We're family now. At the reception, held in the Plaza's ballroom, Liam and Violet shared their first dance as a truly in-love couple. The song was At Last by Etta James, and they moved slowly, carefully, because of the pregnancy, but completely lost in each other's eyes. Mrs. Parker, Liam murmured in her ear, how does it feel to officially be my wife? The The same as before, she said, smiling. Only now I have a beautiful ring to prove it. And in a few weeks, we'll have a baby to complete our crazy family. Liam, are you happy? Really happy, Violet. 8 months ago, I was a lonely workaholic who organized books by color. Today, I'm a married man with an amazing woman, expecting our first child, and sharing control of a company with the smartest person I know. So, yes, I'm more than happy. I'm complete. During Sophia's speech, she raised her glass of champagne. Violet drank grape juice and said, "A few months ago, my son Liam was a very serious man who needed someone to shake up his overly organized life. Violet was a determined woman who needed someone who would support her unconditionally. Sometimes destiny needs a little push," she winked. "But in the end, love always finds a way." Emma gave her maid of honor speech. "I met Violet 5 years ago, and I've never seen her as happy as she's been in these past few months. Liam, you've turned my best friend into the most radiant version of herself. And Violet, you've turned a serious CEO into a man who laughs out loud and eats pasta with his hands. You two are proof that the best marriages start with the most unlikely stories." When the party ended, it was already early morning. Violet and Liam went up to the hotel's presidential suite, exhausted but glowing. "Liam," Violet said, kicking off her shoes and dropping onto the bed, "our baby's going to be born into a world where his parents met because his mom yelled at his dad, thinking he was someone else. That's quite a story to tell when he grows up." Liam laughed, loosening his tie. "Do you think we'll be good parents?" Liam lay down next to her, placing his hand on her belly. "Violet, if we could turn a forced marriage into a true love story, we can do anything." That night, while Manhattan sparkled below, Violet and Liam fell asleep in each other's arms, knowing they had found something rare and precious. A love born out of chaos, strengthened through adversity, and blossomed through mutual understanding. And somewhere in the city, Sophia Parker smiled in her apartment, content in knowing that sometimes, just sometimes, interfering in your children's lives can lead to something wonderful